y'all. It's Brigitte Cutshall with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Delaney. Hopefully, I said that correctly. He is an entrepreneur and the founder of Elevated Technologies. Can you say hi, Delaney?
Hey, Bridget, thank you so much for having me here, and you crushed it. You got the name right.
Thank you. I'm very cognizant of how that is because people destroyed my name growing up when I was a little kid. But
Of course.
we can't take it too personally, right? Because everybody has different cultures. And I think that's what's so unique about with Zoom is a newer, well, it's not that new, the technology, and then what you're doing. And I was very interested in learning what got you to start this company, Elevated Technologies, because it is related to helping people find, my understanding, um, remote jobs, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can go as far back and deep as you want, but to give you a very high level overview, um, out of college, I found myself working for a pretty traditional big healthcare company. I studied IT and marketing in college, so I was part of like the tech team, and I had a lot of creative energy and I really wanted to make an impact and I really tried. And it was probably just the company I fell into, not necessarily corporate as a whole, but it just did not reward innovation or creativity. There's so much red tape and it was more just about keeping status quo. And that led me to say, okay, you know what, that's fine. I can earn the income I'm earning from this company, but let me go find some other outlet for my creative energy. And this really spanned over about 7 years. Um, Doing a bunch of different side hustle things. And my company was remote before COVID. So I had a lot of freedom, did a lot of different things in the entrepreneurial space. But ultimately, and I learned a ton and got to make an impact. And for me, to your point, feeling like we're making a real impact is super important to me. And I didn't really feel like I was getting that from my corporate job at all. So I did a lot of different things, started a few businesses in the health space, like personal development space, helped other people scale some remote coaching businesses. And eventually I just got pretty burnt out on that. So for me, I was like, okay, I have this corporate skill set in tech. I don't really love it, but it could pay well. And so the aha moment for me that really kicked off this entire business that we have is I was like, I wonder if I could work multiple remote jobs simultaneously and really grow my remote income. Because I was still collecting that, which out of college, 80K was crazy good. But then 7 years later, I'm like, okay, if this is really how I'm going to make a paycheck, I could do so much better. And I ran the math. I was like, if I could work 2 or 3 remote jobs and AI was starting to become a thing, it's like, okay, if I could get really efficient in my jobs and do a good job, but take on more responsibility, I could really grow my income and really change my life. And that's the path I pursued. Had some really great success, was able to grow my income to nearly 400K in just a few months. And naturally, people wanted to learn how to do it. So very high level, we launched Elevated Tech, which helps people grow their remote income by landing remote jobs. Some people, they just want to get out of a job they don't like and get into a better remote job that gives them freedom. Some people want to work multiple remote jobs. They're working one and they're like, okay, this is not even that hard. I could do at least one more, if not more than that. So that's the sweet spot we found ourselves in is really helping people leverage AI and automation to get a competitive advantage in the job market because it is tough out there. It is really hard for people to land jobs. The future of the job market is very uncertain. We don't know where it's going to go. So for people, a lot of the appeal is like, even if I can save an extra 10, 20, $30,000, that could be the difference maker over the next couple of years of me having a nest egg in case things aren't fantastic.
As you were talking, there's just so many ideas into my head of all this stuff happens constantly. All this change is normal, but it's now seems to be at a rapid pace. And so we need to, my example, when I started working in corporate, I understand what you're talking about. The biggest technology that helped me was having email. I mean, that was invented when I was out of college. It just came out. I'm not that old. It hasn't been around as long as people think it has been. And that was a big deal. Then I could communicate remotely. Is that right word? And
Yeah.
you had to have it was slower internet connection. But I understand where you're coming from because the leadership is important of what company you're working for, not just what they're doing, but we have to understand this tech and you're using it properly, I believe. That's how, my take is on this. And a lot of people are scared because of the unknown. It seems to be lots of chaos everywhere because there is chaos. Not doesn't seem to be. There is chaos. I mean, you're trying to help people find their spot, find their purpose and their skill set. Is that really that it? And then I never even thought about AI helping find a job, but because I'm that generation where it just started with me. You know what I'm saying? My group, my Gen Xers, and then we're like the bridge. And so like we're trying to keep up, but it's it can be overwhelming. But you're helping people get beyond that. You're helping them with the foundation already with your elevated technologies. And it's hopefully I'm saying this correctly, but I think it's really helpful because we don't know what the job future is going to be like. And I think like I said, the chaos going on globally, who knows? I grew up in the generation where that's where it happened, the 80s and 90s. That's when they started sending stuff overseas because of the profit. That's how I see it in the
Yeah,
corporate
no,
world.
you're totally correct. Yeah, it became way more efficient. You can go find an employee, and it's even more prevalent now today. It's less going to India and more going to places like South America, but it's the same concept where it's you can get a software developer at 20% the cost to do the same job remotely. Companies are going to take
Right.
you up on.
And we've got smart people all over the world, all over the globe. And I think tech is a common language for everybody. Is that right? It doesn't have to be in.
Yeah, and it's not just tech. I mean, I think that globalization is happening in every subset of work. I've talked to so many people who their company, whether it's a tech company or otherwise, they're pivoting to sales teams that are based in Brazil or Argentina. They speak good English. They might have a bit of an accent, but their English is really solid. And same thing. It's like, oh, if I can get a person to do this job for a fraction of the price and they can do a good job, a lot of people will go that route. And there will always be a subset of people who want to hire from the US, but the use case for when that is needed, especially because you can take someone who maybe barely even understands English, empower them with ChatGPT, and they can actually do a good job.
Right.
That is a crutch for them. So yeah, it's definitely a turbulent time. And I like my favorite thing to communicate is that it's so easy to focus on the negative, but even today, I just put out an April 2025 job market report of like really looking at what's the actual data saying. And it's not communicating that there are no jobs. It's communicating that we actually have a very, very healthy job market
Yes.
and everyone sees the layoff numbers. But what they don't realize is that the new job postings are almost 10x the amount of firing,
I think
especially in tech.
it's a good point. I think what's going on, and that's if with the media, and that's why the media is getting bashed. That's just my personal opinion. They only are focusing on, like you said, showing the data, like, look at all these layoffs. Well, what about, let's talk about how many people are getting hired, and we just need to help people learn about that. And that's kind of what you're doing. And that's kind of why I'm not concerned. We just need to pivot sometimes. Like you said, you have to
Yeah.
pivot and stay engaged with
Yeah.
with
That's,
the life.
yeah, certainly.
Yeah, it's as you were talking, I am working on a project with somebody who's based in Pakistan, and her English is phenomenal. And I couldn't even speak her her native language, which I think there's just so many smart people around the world. We just need to embrace that and not be afraid of it, and not live in a box. That's kind of why I think this fear is happening, at least in our country. Um, but I think the AI, I've played around, I should say played, I've used it to help summarize things and get ideas. And I asked it today, like ChatGPT recommended, what are my blind spots? Holy cow. Because it knows me a little bit because I've had it summarize lots of things. And that could be a good way to help you find a job based on that feedback. Am I wrong?
No, you're totally on par. There are definitely some really good use cases, and I can share a few of them.
Yes.
Um, and I think this is for everyone, like to just tie those two ideas together, the job market and then how you can actually practically leverage some of these things. The job market, all the opportunities being created, many of them are due to this big explosion of AI, right? So that doesn't mean like you need to become a software developer, but every subset of work, whether you're an email marketer, you're in sales, you're a project manager, like AI is really augmenting these fields. So the best thing anyone can do is become more skilled with different AI tools, because then you'll be the person people want to hire. Companies may only have 1/10 of the amount of people in each part of their company, but the people that are there will be the ones that have the AI tools. So they definitely would encourage everyone to be thinking about, given the line of work that I either am in or want to be in, let me actually go learn these tools. And then when it comes to the job search, there's times where ChatGPT is a great tool, but the job search is a very good example of where there are actually even more specialized tools that can help you beyond like what a general tool like ChatGPT can do. Of course, like you're still going to be better off if you do use ChatGPT to say, hey, I'm going after marketing manager jobs. What are one thing everyone listening should understand is, if you're in the job market, before a human reads your resume, the algorithm or the software built into LinkedIn or wherever you're applying is going to scan your resume, compare it to the job posting, and it's going to predict if you're a good fit or not. And that will put you on either page 1 or page 47 of the applicants, like Google searches.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of feedback from people who are applying for jobs on LinkedIn and they're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the problem, because we talk to so many people who it does break my heart, because they have fantastic experience. And if a human read the resume, they would see it, but they're not getting past that first benchmark, which is, does the AI like my resume or not? So using a tool like ChatGPT to help you figure out, ChatGPT can do it, but you have to know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
Going and figuring out what are the right, like there are some really great AI tools that are specific for resumes that you can use for,
I bet.
$20 a month, that can help you really target the, what are the right words I should have in my resume? What's the right style? How's my quantification? And not just on your resume, but on your LinkedIn as well. You kind of have to have those both in sync. And there's also some really powerful AI tools that will apply to jobs for you. So essentially clicking a button and now the computer just takes over and starts going on LinkedIn for you and applying. And that might sound ridiculous and over the top, but like 500 people apply to every job these days. So your likelihood of getting an interview is low. So the only thing you can really do is play the numbers game and just try to create as many new opportunities as possible.
Right. It's just amazing what you're talking about. It just didn't exist a few years ago. Really.
Yeah.
It didn't
Yeah.
exist. And you have to learn what you're doing is you're adapting to the market and you're trying to help people figure this out and not, you, I can say I was laid off from a corporate job a while ago, but private equity, but that's what's going on. Efficiency. And I didn't, apply for too many jobs just because that's when I mentioned before, I got cancer again. I'm like, I'm just going to focus on doing what I'm doing. And that's when I had clients recommend I do my own thing because they trusted me. And that's part of it. You got to have trust. And I think AI eventually will help people trust it. Some people are just on the wall. Is that what you call it? They're not quite sure on what to do. I've played around. Should I use the word play? Sorry. The Gemini, just depends on what you're using it for. Gemini, and this is Claude, and then there's probably so many more. There's another one I discovered called Poe.com, which connects you to all different ones.
Yeah.
But it's just so many. I'm just learning it from reading newsletters, right?
Yeah.
I'm connecting that way. And these guys that started this newsletter, I think they're Northwestern University students. Your younger generation definitely knows how to look at things a little differently.
Yeah, for sure. And just off of that note, because totally resonate with that. And I know plenty of people, because I feel fortunate that I've had the time to really go into the AI tools. Like I just happen to have enough free time. And it's tough. Like if you work a full-time job, you're really busy. Creating the time to try to catch up to AI can feel hard and overwhelming. And to your point, there are so many different tools you can use. And this is just my perspective, but I think the best way to not feel overwhelmed by it is they're basically all essentially the same thing. So there might be like a 3% increase in how good one of those is compared to the others, or
Right.
you might be able to find out like places where one might outperform others. But anyone who might feel overwhelmed, it's like, what is the tiniest little step you can take consistently? And that might be spending 5 minutes a day just playing around. And one thing that I conditioned myself to do that's been really helpful is anytime I'm trying to solve a problem, I'll just go to ChatGPT or an AI tool first to see how it does. It may do a good job, it may not, but it always expands my mind in terms of the use cases if I'm willing to really push the limits of what those type of technologies can do.
There was a couple years ago, this guy that I know, he wrote a book called, I forgot what the title's called, but it's like prompt engineering kind of in a way is what he was
Sure.
calling it. It is so important how you ask the question and how you phrase it. Because if think you're talking to a human, it's not going to understand some of the aspects you're looking for, the nuances. It doesn't understand the nuances yet. But that's what it was a really cool book that he wrote. He gave an example um, of a process, how it works, prompt engineering. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I think
Yeah.
that was just 2 years ago. And I'm sure it's outdated by now. I mean, just how fast it's
Yeah.
going.
No, for sure.
And
Yeah.
I learned a lot from him because he asked me to be one of the early readers, beta reader.
Mhm.
And that's when I went, oh, that's kind of when I started um, getting on the chat GPT. And then I learned about Gemini and Claude. And I use them for different reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, if you're already clear on which ones are good for which topics, you're ahead of the curve for sure.
Gemini is a really good editor, to be honest with you, from what
Yeah.
I'll talk to it. I'll talk to it like it's, thank you so much. I'm like, why am I doing that?
No,
But
you have to be nice because you never know when AI will just take over and they'll come and they'll judge you based on how nice you were. You have
they'll
to do it.
remember, they'll remember who's been communicating with them. I
Yeah.
think
Who was
it's
nice
just
and who
so
wasn't.
cool that you embrace this in a way. I think it's so important. You as an example, you were my understanding, you were an engineer, software engineer, and then you had to go down this route unexpectedly, maybe, right?
Yeah. So my background's actually in product management. It is in
Sorry.
software. I just don't want to take credit because I'm not even that technical. I was the
Gotcha,
guy who
gotcha,
like designed what we should build and then the smart
gotcha.
people take it over and build the thing.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like truly everything we're doing just came out of the challenges that I was experiencing when I was like, oh, I'm actually going to go try to get a job. And like, same thing, crickets, not getting any feedback and it being really hard. And it's like, okay, like this sucks, but I'm not just going to lay down and quit. We're going to figure out how to play the game. And it's not like I wish this wasn't the case. I wish you didn't have to stuff your resume with keywords just to get noticed,
I
but
know.
the reality we live in and we want to get a paycheck. So yeah, you just got to play the game essentially.
And it is a lot, just people are just so unsure. But again, going back to the very beginning, there is a lot of opportunities out there, but they're not talking about that. And I think that's what you need, stories like this. We need to elevate what you're doing. Is that the right word? Elevate? We need to do
Yeah,
that.
it's
You're
great.
elevating technology.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the goal.
So you use the proper word because you're elevating it. My background is product management too, which I think is funny.
Oh, no way. Love
Corporate
that.
and business development, how to use the right, so you learn how to design with words as well. And
Exactly.
I think it's amazing. Do you have like a team or do you?
Yeah, we have a pretty big team. We have, I don't even know, at least 20 or 25 people a part of our team. So we use some AI tools to apply to jobs, but we also use real humans. Just like this whole conversation of outsourcing, finding really great people in other places. We have a fantastic team in the Philippines that every client gets assigned a real human to help apply to jobs for them. So we have quite a big team in the Philippines. We have a sales team. We have a marketing team. So yeah, we have a lot of people involved and it's really fun.
That is really, really, really cool. And another thing I was thinking of, I've seen the negative aspect of it is like the publishing side. Like some publishers are ticked off about copyright information. That is something that we need to be careful what we're putting into. That's, if you're using chat, don't put in your social security, don't put in your personal address. I just don't want it to know that.
Sure.
That's kind of, but that's just in any situation, really. You got to be careful your personal
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, one of the best things anyone can do is I'd have to guess all the platforms have this. I know ChatGPT does, but there is in the settings, and I believe I don't want to misspeak. I'm pretty sure they maybe made this now default, but either way, everyone should go check. And there is a toggle that you can switch on, which is making sure your data and none of it feeds back to train the algorithm. If you do have that off, then yeah, for sure, anything you're
Right.
prompting could go back into the data set, which is not good because you don't want all that information about you. It's like a
Yeah.
marketing team, like
Yeah. I
game
think they
scenario.
implemented that. Yeah. I think they implemented that after a lot of people were complaining, and but I think it's still okay. That's where the world is going. I watched 60 Minutes. I don't watch it regularly, but they had something about AI in the future, and I can't remember the guy who deep he works for Google. I can't remember his deep something. What is it?
Deep Seek
Deep
or
Seek. Yeah, it was Deep Seek, and the founder of that part, and they were talking to him, and he was saying the same thing. We still have to be, a little careful. Um,
yeah, for sure.
but we have to guide it and teach it the right way. That's really what it is, and that's kind of why I say thank you when I'm chatting with it or prompt engineering correctly. And I think it's just amazing. And so now one of the things you guys do, that you guys elevated to, is job stacking. So can you explain what that is? Because that's a new
Yeah,
term for me.
sure, absolutely. So job stacking is also known as overemployment. Those are kind of the two labels that people on the internet have used to describe this. And when I thought I had come up with an original idea, and I was like, oh, I can maybe work multiple remote jobs. And then, of course, I started searching, and I'm like, oh, there's this like underground group of people on the internet on Reddit talking about this. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me join these guys and see what's going on. And yeah, so the concept of job stacking or overemployment is it really is only realistic if you're working remotely. There are people who are already remote pursuing it, or people who want to go remote so they can pursue it. But the concept is working more than one job at a time. And a lot of people are like, is this full-time work or part-time work? Technically, it can be either. The way I pursued it, and we usually encourage people to pursue it, is go after the full-time roles, because that's if this is all built on, can you actually maintain the quality of work? If you can't, you will get fired and it will be not worth your time. So only go as fast and as far as you actually can manage. But in the event that, okay, I'm working two jobs, I can actually get all my work done. And one of the mindsets that you need to have in place, not probably to even think this might be interesting to you, but to be successful for sure, is not about trading time for money. Isn't traditional, oh, I work for this company, so I owe them 40 hours a week. You
Right.
really need to have the mindset of, they're paying me $100,000. Well, I need to make sure they get at least $200,000 of value out of me. And then everyone's happy, right? If I'm putting out the results that are expected of me, then this is sustainable. But it doesn't need to be, but you're decoupling it from the actual time you're spending on the role. And I won't pretend that this is black and white, like ethically and morally, you should go job stack because it's good
Right.
and everyone should do it. Like, definitely not true. It's everyone just has to have the personal relationship with it. For me, that was the lens I took, is like, if I can work multiple roles, if I can provide a positive ROI, and if I can grow my income, this could be really beneficial for me. And, just to lay out some of these, because everyone is usually curious about what's their take on this, like ethically, morally, legally, all those things. Legally, just covering that really quickly. As of my knowledge, everyone should just go confirm this, but I have not seen anywhere that job stacking is illegal. Like, there's no federal law that says job stacking is illegal. You should still check with your like local state laws, et cetera, just in case. But again, to my knowledge, across the board, it's not really a legal conversation. The only time that could be true is if you might be a federal employee and you have security clearance, and you working multiple jobs puts that security clearance at risk.
Right.
There have been news articles of people getting like sentenced to jail because of that. So if you're a federal employee, don't even think about it. But traditionally, the worst thing that could happen to you if you were caught working multiple roles is you might get let go. And that's very avoidable. But you theoretically, yeah, you could get let go from one of the companies. Less likely would be you'd get let go from both. But what I've seen, and I'm guessing you have as well, and you even mentioned, so many people are loyal to a company, and the minute profitability isn't where it needs to be, they'll slice 20% of their workforce. And we do see
Right.
that in quite a bit. So for me, this concept of, well, you should just commit to your one job and, line in the sand, like it's wrong to do anything otherwise. I think that sounds great in a vacuum, but in the reality that there is no loyalty to your company and the job market is hard. And if you have a family and you're providing for a family, and you lose your job, you might not have income for 3 to 6 months, especially if you don't understand the job market. So for me, when I weigh those pros and cons for myself, it's like, okay, so I could lose my job at any moment anyways. If I have 2 jobs, if I lose one job, I still have an income source. So that's for me where I was like, okay, the pros could outweigh the cons here. But again, everyone should definitely think about it for themselves.
And your roles are, these are basically remote. So that's why driving or commuting in a big city would be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. This really will never work if you're in an office. So a lot of people, the first step is really to figure out how to get remote and then go from there. So you might have to swap your current job for a remote job to make this a possibility.
Right. I'm just really fortunate. I was an outlier back in the day because I've always worked remote, and I'm talking for a long time, and that's because of email. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
and then I my roles, I had to do some traveling. So I did remind them, like, why do I have to drive to the office if I'm traveling so much? And then we got email, and they were like, yeah, you're right. So that is something that, plus then that's when I had kids where I was very fortunate to have flexible roles. I think that's what is important too, is having flexibility. That's what I see in what you're doing. Flexibility is critical, and the old school stuff, corporate stuff needs to change. Sorry, guys, but it does they need to adapt as well. And some of
Yeah,
them,
certainly.
yeah, some of them are right. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like you. It's really kind of funny. I have a similar background, product management, and I did it for Heidelberg. You ever heard of Heidelberg? And
Yeah. Mhm.
oh my gosh, that was really cool. It was fun, but then they're not the same company that they were when I left over 20 years ago, just because of the change in technology. That's what it is. That's why we need to be open to that and learn. And that's kind of what this podcast is about, is to learn from stories like this. You need to be flexible. Because change is going to happen. And you have to learn how to adapt to these changes. And my takeaway is you need to be open to learning, right?
Yeah,
So what is
exactly.
the one takeaway you would like the listeners to hear about?
Yeah, for sure. So one takeaway for anyone who is in the corporate work environment and or just wants job security over the next decade, it's a few things. One, monitor the job market and understand what skills are high demand and just stay upskilled. If you can just focus on the skills and not get caught in the fearful stories, that is fantastic. And once you're clear on, okay, what jobs are likely to be around, what jobs are around today, just focus on reverse engineering the perfect story that you have to tell. Like if you can do that, sure, there's all the tactical stuff, but if you just, rather than think of like, okay, well, this is my story, so let me just throw it out there. That doesn't work in the job market these days, unfortunately. I don't want anyone to just go overtly lie, but if the fastest way to make sure you're employable is think, what is the story that a recruiter needs to see to be like, this is the perfect person to hire for this job, and then figure out how to fill those gaps. So yeah, you can achieve a lot of that with just the right wording and language in your resume, but also then just start doing your own projects and start building up those skills. You don't need to go ask for permission to build a software product or like partner with someone. Maybe you're the marketing person, you don't know how to code. Well, go find someone and just build the product together. And now you're like a startup founder, technically, right? So like you can manufacture like legitimacy out of thin air. You don't have to wait for someone to employ you to gain skills. So just want everyone to know you're not actually stuck. If you just stay empowered, you can upskill and you can be employable. So no matter what happens in the job market, things will always need to be done. There are going to be so many new problems to solve as AI maybe does take over the jobs that like are safe and stable now. Like when computers came around, I'm sure everyone was super scared that computers were going to take jobs and people are going to lose. Like, no, we just adapt. And now there are new cool jobs because of this stuff. And the same thing is happening right now because of AI. Like so many companies have been built on the back of this technology and they want to hire you if you have the right skill set.
That's a good takeaway, because I'm definitely going to share this with this conversation with others. I've learned a lot just by talking to you. A lot of it's innately, but that we know these things. But I'm so glad this topic came up because there's so much fear out there about the jobs and AI. But you're showing a different perspective, And I think that's really wonderful. Can you share where people can learn more about you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our website, elevatedtech.us. You can head there, learn about us. We have a free course that's on there. You can also grab time with our team if you want to learn more. And I'm also quite active on Instagram at Delaney William _. So those are two great places to find me.
This is so awesome. And like I said, I've learned a lot myself. And for those that are listening, I'll include the links that were mentioned in the description section. And I really appreciate your time and that you found me.
Of course, always super grateful to be here.
Thanks, everybody.